the contest he never entered. Dane Voss never asked for this. He only wanted to survive. His small human scout ship had crash-landed on the alien jungle planet Sathrina 3 days ago. The air was thick with glowing pollen, and the trees looked like they were alive. Some even moved when no wind was present. Dane had only a broken communicator, a damaged knife, and a backpack of survival gear. Still, he fought hard to stay alive. On his third night, he heard the growl. It was low and deep. Something large was stalking him. Dane climbed a tall rock and waited. From the thick bushes below, a beast with 6 legs, bright red eyes, and armor-like scales stepped out. It sniffed the air and growled again. Dane knew he couldn't outrun it, so he picked up a broken metal pipe nearby and tightened his grip. As the beast lunged, Dane rolled to the side, jabbing the pipe into its neck. The beast howled. Blood sprayed. Dane was thrown backward, but he got up fast. He wrapped his belt around the creature's jaws and pulled hard. After several long minutes of wrestling, sweat, and blood, Dane stood victorious. He didn't know eyes were watching him. High above, hidden behind glowing leaves, a group of alien women observed everything. These were not normal aliens. They were Amazari, tall, muscular warrior women with golden eyes and skin marked by tribal tattoos. One of them whispered, "Could he be the one?" The leader, General Nerexa, stepped forward. Her armor shone under the moonlight. She watched the human carefully. He is not afraid to bleed. He fights with mind, not only body. She raised a hand. Bring him to the selection grounds. Dane was still catching his breath when the sky lit up with blue orbs. 10 Amazari warriors landed silently surrounding him. Each held a glowing spear. Dane lifted his hands, unsure if they were enemies or not. "I mean no harm," he said. "You've been chosen," one of them replied. "Chosen for what?" Dane asked. Before he could say another word, something struck his neck, a soft sting, and everything turned black. He woke up inside a glowing chamber. Strange symbols floated in the air. Soft green lights scanned his body, and machines hummed all around. Dane sat up, groaning. His shirt was gone, replaced with a clean, tight alien suit. The door opened. Nerexa entered. She stood over 7 feet tall, her armor covered in strange engravings, and her eyes sharp as blades. Behind her stood 3 other Amazari women, each powerful in their own way. "You are not meant to land here, human," Nerexa said. "I didn't plan to crash," Dane answered calmly. "Still, fate brought you, and fate does not make mistakes." Dane looked confused. "What is this place?" "This is the Hall of Gene Trials," Nerexa replied. "For centuries we have searched across stars for a male with the perfect balance, strength, intelligence, emotion, not just for war, but to build a future." "Build a future?" Dane blinked. "Wait, are you saying—" "You may be the prime breeder," she interrupted. "Our species is dying. We need the strongest genes in the galaxy." Dane's jaw dropped. "You think— me?" Nerexa nodded. "We have tested many. None passed. But your blood, your actions, they speak something ancient." Before he could protest, the scans finished with a soft chime. Result: maximum compatibility. The chamber filled with whispers. The 3 women behind Nerexa, Velka, the war champion, Shareth, the mind priestess, and Iluna, the silent shadow, stepped forward. Each looked at Dane with curiosity, surprise, and something deeper. "Prepare him," Nerexa said. "The trials begin at dawn." Dane was taken to a resting chamber, fed strange glowing fruit, and given clean clothes. He sat on a stone bed, staring at the alien ceiling. He didn't ask for this. He just wanted to get home. But something inside him stirred. A part of him, buried and long ignored, felt alive. He had faced death. He had been chosen. And somehow, he wanted to know what came next. As the chamber doors closed, Dane heard a whisper through the vents, Iluna's voice soft and chilling. "Let's see if the human can handle what he was born for." The Gene Tribunal. Dane didn't sleep much. The alien bed was soft. The food had relaxed his body, but his mind was racing. He kept hearing the words from General Nerexa. Prime breeder, strongest genes in the galaxy. What kind of madness was this? The room was quiet, glowing faintly with pale blue lights along the curved ceiling. Alien symbols shimmered across the walls like liquid script. Dane sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his reflection in a polished silver panel. He looked tired, but his eyes burned with questions. Why him? What did they want? And what would happen if he failed? Suddenly, the door opened with a soft hum. 2 Amazari guards entered. They wore red and gold armor, tall and sharp-eyed. "It is time," one said. Dane nodded, standing up. He followed them through a wide hallway where the floor seemed to respond to every step, lighting up softly under his feet. At the end, giant gates opened. He walked into a massive circular chamber filled with alien tech. In the center floated a huge translucent orb pulsing with golden light. Dozens of Amazari stood on balconies above, watching in silence. They were scientists, elders, and warriors, leaders of their proud and powerful race. In front of the glowing orb stood the 3 Amazari champions, Velka, the strong one with fire in her eyes, Shareth, with glowing silver tattoos and calm, wise movements, and Iluna, silent and unreadable, her dark armor blending with shadows. General Nerexa stood beside the orb and spoke with authority. "Human Dane Voss, you have been chosen for the Gene Tribunal." "What does that mean?" Dane asked, trying to sound brave. Nerexa raised her hand, and a beam of golden light scanned Dane from head to toe. Floating symbols circled around his body, showing DNA strands, pulse rates, neural activity. "You will face 3 tests," she said. "1 by the body, 1 by the mind, 1 by the heart. If you pass, you will be granted the title of Prime Seed Bearer." "And if I fail?" he asked. Iluna finally spoke, her voice low and smooth but cold. "Then you are just another pretty corpse." The first trial, Velka's arena Dane was taken to an open battlefield, a circular arena made of stone and steel. Velka stood in the center wearing light combat gear and holding a heavy training staff. "You beat a beast with a metal pipe," she said. "Let's see how you handle a warrior." Dane didn't have weapons. Velka tossed him a staff, then charged without warning. Her attacks were fast, brutal, and precise. Dane dodged, barely blocking blows that would shatter bones. He rolled, struck back, and used the environment, walls, stones, even shadows, to gain advantage. He didn't try to win with power. He fought smart. At one point, he used her own force against her, letting her momentum throw her off balance. The crowd gasped. Velka smirked. "Clever monkey. You pass." The second trial, Shareth's Chamber of Echoes, Dane was guided into a silent dome filled with floating crystals and echoing whispers. Shareth sat in the center, legs crossed, eyes closed. "Here," she said, "we test your mind." A glowing cube appeared before Dane. It split into 4 parts, each showing a battlefield simulation full of alien symbols and numbers. He had to solve them. Choose the right moves, sacrifice or save, lead or retreat. Dane's hands shook. He had no idea what half the signs meant. But he remembered something. Patterns, logic, emotion. He made guesses, adjusted, and adapted. When the 4th simulation ended, silence followed. Then the crystals pulsed in bright white. Shareth opened her eyes. "Very few learn from the puzzle while solving it. You pass." The third trial. Iluna's veil this time, Dane was taken to a dark room lit only by a pale beam of light from the ceiling. Iluna stood in the shadows. "No strength, no logic, just truth," she said. "This trial is the heart." She walked up to him and touched his chest. Suddenly, Dane was no longer in the room. He was reliving his worst memories, his mother crying as Earth's skies burned during the Orion invasion, his best friend dying in his arms, the sound of his own scream when his ship crashed. He fell to his knees. Iluna's voice echoed in the illusion. Do you run from pain, human? Or do you carry it? Tears rolled down Dane's face. But he stood. I carry it, he whispered. Because it matters. The illusions faded. Iluna walked forward and touched his cheek. For the first time, she smiled. Just a little. You pass. But then, suspicion rises. The trials were over. Dane stood before the council. The orb pulsed golden again. All three champions stood beside him. He had passed. The chamber echoed with rising voices, some cheers, some protests. A scientist whispered something to Nerexa. She frowned. There is a disturbance in the genetic data. Suddenly, alarms sounded. A side gate burst open. A tall, male Amazari hybrid with greenish skin stormed in. Karen, once a failed trial subject, now a bitter rival. He cheated, Karen shouted. No outsider can beat me. I was born for this. Dane turned as Karen threw a small dart towards the orb. It sparked, causing an explosion of light. Chaos followed. Dane grabbed Iluna, pushing her behind cover. Are you all right? She stared at him, shocked. You protected me. Dane stood up. You think I came to cheat or destroy? I came to survive. Now, I fight. As guards rushed, In and Karen escaped into the shadows. General Nerexa shouted, Let the trials continue. Let them fight for the future on the battlefield. Trial by strength, mind, and heart. The chamber lights flickered as smoke curled from the damaged orb. Guards chased after Karen, but he vanished into the shadows of the inner citadel. General Nerexa stood frozen, her fists clenched in fury. The sacred gene tribunal had been violated. The future of the Amazari was now tangled in doubt. Dane Voss stood at the center of it all, sweating, confused but unshaken. I didn't come here to cause chaos, he said, voice clear. But if I have to fight to prove my worth, then I will. Nerexa turned to him. You've passed our trials, but Karen's attack has shaken the council. Some now question whether your victory was manipulated. Dane frowned. By me? No, Iluna said softly from the shadows. By fate. Fate that others fear. And he wants to destroy. Shareth stepped forward. Then let the human undergo one more test. Not by machines. Not by scans. But by us. A test of trust. And loyalty. Dane was led to the Sanctum of Will, a massive chamber shaped like a triangle, with 3 towering platforms. On each platform stood one of the Amazari champions, Velka, Shareth, and Iluna. Each held a different kind of trial prepared for him, not to test raw power or basic intelligence, but to reveal the core of his being. These were ancient rites passed down for thousands of years. Few survived them. None who did were ever doubted again. Nerexa gave the signal. The trials began. Velka's trial, the warrior's gauntlet. Climb, human, Velka growled from her platform. Dane looked up at the tall pillar, at least 50 feet high, covered in sharp ridges, steam vents, and shifting stone plates. No ropes, no help. At the top, Velka waited, standing still with a blade in hand. Dane began the climb. Every few feet, something moved. Plates slid, sharp edges struck out. The gauntlet was alive. A heat vent nearly burned his leg, but he pushed through. His fingers bled. His arms trembled. Twice he slipped, barely catching hold of a ridge. Below, the crowd watched in silence. Some doubted, others whispered. When Dane finally reached the top, sweat running into his eyes, Velka stepped forward and handed him a practice blade. Fight, she said. No rest. No mercy. Velka attacked with ferocity, but Dane didn't collapse. He dodged, blocked, shifted his feet like water. He wasn't faster. He wasn't stronger. But he was aware, watching her movements, predicting, adapting. After 15 minutes of combat, Velka paused. She grinned. You don't fight to win, she said. You fight to endure. She tapped her chest with a closed fist, a salute. You pass. Shareth's trial. The mirror of shadows. Dane was blindfolded and brought into a dome of silence. Here, no weapons were allowed, no words, just thoughts. Shareth's voice echoed in his mind. This trial is not about your brain, but your soul. Suddenly, the walls of the dome shimmered and showed versions of himself. Dark reflections. In one mirror, he was cruel and selfish, betraying others. In another, he chose power over compassion. In a third, he let a child die to save himself. Dane's heart raced. These were not dreams, these were his possible futures, his fears, his choices, his shadows. The voices in the dome grew louder. You are weak. You will break. You're just a human. Dane clenched his fists and shouted into the dome. I am human. I make mistakes. But I learn. I grow. I choose to be better. The mirrors cracked. Shareth appeared beside him. Only those who face themselves can lead others. She touched his forehead with glowing fingers. You pass. Iluna's trial. The trial of silence. For this test, no arena was given. No weapons. No illusions. Iluna led Dane to the outer cliffs, where powerful winds howled over glowing waterfalls, and alien wildlife roamed far below. She sat on the edge of a rocky perch, her back to him. This test is not for your body, not for your mind. It is for your silence, she said. Dane sat beside her. Minutes passed, then an hour. Neither spoke. Finally, Iluna said quietly, You protected me during the explosion. Why? Dane didn't look at her. Because you were in danger. You didn't hesitate. I didn't need to, he said. Iluna looked at him. Even after knowing what I've done? Dane turned. I don't care about your past. I care about who you are now. Silence returned. But this time it was warm. Iluna stood, walked to him slowly, and offered her hand. You pass, she whispered. A shadow strikes again. Dane returned to the center platform. All three champions stood beside him. The crowd roared in approval. Even the elders whispered the ancient phrase, He is chosen by strength, mind, and heart. But just as Nerexa stepped forward to declare him prime seed-bearer, a sudden explosion shattered the chamber's roof. Dust fell. Screams echoed. Karen had returned, wearing stolen battle armor. He held a high-tech spear and pointed it directly at Dane. No outsider will take what was meant for me, Karen screamed. Guards moved forward, but Karen activated a shield around himself and Dane, trapping them in a dome of energy. Iluna gasped. He means to kill him in a public duel. Nerexa's eyes flared. Let the human decide his fate. Inside the dome, Dane didn't flinch. He stepped forward, eyes locked with Karen's. Let's finish this. As Dane raised his fists, and Karen charged with full force, the crowd held its breath. Outside the dome, Iluna whispered with trembling lips, Please, don't die. Bonds and betrayals. The energy dome crackled with violet lightning, trapping Dane Voss and Karen inside a deadly circle of silence. Outside, thousands of Amazari warriors watched from the high stone balconies. No one dared speak. No one dared move. This was sacred now. A duel of fate, not chosen by trial, but by defiance. Karen's stolen battle armor glowed with black fire. His eyes were full of rage. You stole my place, he growled, circling Dane. That title, that future, was meant for me. Dane didn't reply. He had no armor, no weapons, just his fists, his brain, and the raw will to survive. His muscles ached from the earlier trials, but something deep inside him refused to give up. He steadied his breath. Don't fight with hate, he told himself. Fight with purpose. The duel begins. Karen struck first, fast and brutal. A spinning kick aimed at Dane's head. Dane ducked, rolled, and countered with a punch to the ribs. It felt like hitting a metal wall. Karen laughed and responded with a series of wild attacks. But Dane was calm. He dodged instead of blocked, moved instead of resisted. He remembered Velka's lessons. He used the arena's narrow edges to maneuver, never staying in one spot, then a hard blow to his side. Dane gasped, dropping to one knee. Blood spilled from his lip. Karen sneered. "Still think you belong here, Earth scum?" Dane looked up. "I didn't come here to belong," he said through clenched teeth. "I came here to earn it." And with that, Dane leapt forward and drove his elbow into Karen's throat. The hybrid choked, staggering backward. Meanwhile, outside the Doma Luna paced like a caged shadow. Her hands glowed faintly with energy. Shareth stood silently beside her. "Break the dome," Iluna whispered. "We can't," Shareth replied. "It's locked by stolen High Council codes. If we interfere, both of them will die." Iluna's eyes narrowed. "If Dane dies, Karen wins, and this planet falls to its darkest path." Velka stepped forward, cracking her knuckles. "Then pray he wins." The fight turns. Inside the dome, Dane's breathing grew ragged. Karen, now furious, tore off his damaged helmet and roared. "You think strength is enough?" he shouted. "I've bled for the Amazari. I was bred for this." He charged like a beast, slamming Dane into the energy wall. Sparks exploded. Dane screamed in pain as the electricity surged through his back. He dropped to the ground, vision spinning. Karan stood over him. "You are nothing." But just before Karen delivered the final blow, Dane rolled and kicked out with all his strength, right into Karen's injured knee. It cracked. Karen roared in pain. Dane forced himself up. No more running. He grabbed Karen's own spear, twisted it from his hands, and with one clean move, snapped it in half. The crowd gasped. Dane stood tall, bleeding, shaking, but unbroken. "Kill him," a voice shouted from above. But Dane dropped the broken spear. "No," he said. "I don't kill to prove myself. I fight to protect." The dome falls. The energy dome fizzled and dropped. Silence. Then, a slow, thunderous applause. General Nerexa stepped forward. "The tribunal is complete," she declared. "The human has passed, through strength, mind, heart, and mercy." Karen collapsed unconscious. Guards dragged him away. Iluna rushed forward, ignoring protocol. She touched Dane's face gently. "You should have ended him," she said softly. Dane looked into her glowing eyes. "And become what he is?" "No." Iluna stared at him for a moment, then nodded. "I was wrong about humans," she whispered. Velka and Shareth joined them. For the first time, all three champions stood beside him, not as testers but as allies. But the shadows aren't gone. Yet, that night, in the highest tower of the palace, Nerexa gathered the inner circle. "We have a problem," she said, showing a stolen data chip retrieved from Karen's armor. This wasn't about jealousy. Karen was being used. The screen showed communication logs, off-world signals, coded orders, and a single symbol glowing in red. Shareth gasped. "The Scourge Dominion?" Iluna's face turned pale. "They want our prime seed-bearer destroyed before he spreads his bloodline." Velka cracked her neck. "Then let them try." But Nerexa looked at Dane. "You are no longer just a guest. You are now our target, and our hope." Dane swallowed hard. "So what now?" Nerexa handed him a ceremonial blade, ancient and beautiful. "Now you become one of us." Bond of the Triad. The next morning, in a quiet garden beneath the twin suns, Dane was summoned to the sacred grove. There the three champions waited in formal armor, standing in a triangle. "This is not marriage," Shareth said. "This is unity." "This is not servitude," Velka added. "This is choice." "This is not fate," Iluna whispered. "This is trust." Dane stepped into the center. He placed his hand in theirs one by one. "I accept," he said. "Not because you chose me, but because we chose each other." A pulse of light rose from the ground. The grove of life glowed, and the bond was sealed. For the first time in Amazari history, a human was joined with the triad of champions. As the sun set and celebration drums echoed in the skies, a spy cloaked in shadows sent a silent signal to the far reaches of space. Target confirmed. Human is bonded. Activate strike fleet. The true war was just beginning. The Awakening Within. Dane Voss stood on the edge of the ancient cliffs of Sathrina, staring out at the burning horizon. Two suns dipped behind the spiked mountains, casting red light across the jungle canopy. Behind him, the celebration still echoed, the chants, the lights, the rhythm of drums. But inside Dane, something was changing. Ever since the ceremony in the Grove of Life, he felt different, faster, stronger, sharper, not just in his muscles, but in his mind and senses too. He could feel heat in the air, vibrations in the ground, even the heartbeat of Iluna as she approached silently behind him. "You're not sleeping," she said. Dane turned. "I can't. My body feels alive, like it's humming." Iluna walked to his side, her long black hair glowing in the moonlight. "The Grove accepted you. It awakened your dormant abilities." "Abilities?" Dane asked. "Yes," she said. "Your genes were compatible, but now, the Grove has unlocked their potential. You're no longer just human. You're something more." Dane swallowed. "What does that mean?" Iluna looked toward the stars. "It means others will fear you, and they'll try to kill you before you understand who you really are. A silent invasion begins far above the planet, hidden in the shadow of a dead moon. The Scourge Dominion's strike fleet prepared for descent. Cloaked ships with jagged hulls and dark green energy cores hovered silently. Their mission: eliminate Dane Voss, the genetic anomaly, before his bloodline could reshape the Amazari future. Inside the command ship, a Scourge warlord named Zal Kor growled at a holographic image of Dane. "This human is a threat. He must be destroyed before the next moonrise." Dane's training intensifies back at the Citadel. General Nerexa summoned Dane to a private training chamber deep underground. "You've shown courage," she said, "but courage isn't enough in war." She activated the gravity forge, a chamber that altered weight, time, and pressure. Dane was thrown into a world where every step felt like lifting a mountain. Velka trained him in advanced combat. Shareth sharpened his senses using mental focus techniques. Iluna taught him how to move without sound, speak without words, and strike without being seen. Dane collapsed more times than he could count, but he always got back up. Every fall made him stronger. Every scar told a story. After 2 weeks, even the hardest Amazari guards began whispering among themselves. The human learns faster than anyone we've seen. The vision one night, during meditation, Dane saw something. He stood in a field of stars, alone. The sky above him cracked open, and from it black ships poured out. Fire rained from the sky. Amazari cities burned. The champions lay broken. A shadowy figure stood above them all and spoke his name. Dane Voss. The mistake that changed destiny. He woke up shaking, sweat pouring down his back. Shareth found him minutes later. "You saw the Scourge," she said. "The Grove gave you a warning." "They're coming," Dane said. "I felt it." "They're already here," she replied. The assassination attempt, the next morning, as Dane walked into the Hall of Ancients for a meeting. A disguised servant pulled a hidden blade and lunged at him. Everything slowed. Dane felt the air shift, smelled the poison on the blade, heard the attacker's heartbeat. He dodged, disarmed, and flipped the assassin in one fluid motion before he even realized he had moved. Iluna appeared beside him, grabbing the attacker's throat. "You're not from here," the assassin hissed, his skin changing color, revealing reptilian scales. "Scourge spy," Nerexa said grimly. "They've infiltrated us." She looked at Dane. "You must leave the capital now. You're no longer safe here." The journey to the outer temple. The triad took Dane to the outer temple, A hidden sanctuary deep in the wild lands, protected by ancient energy fields and guarded by the Silent Sisters, a secret order of warrior priestesses. Here, Dane would be, tested one final time, not by enemies but by the source flame, a living fire said to burn away lies and reveal the soul's true shape. They entered a chamber built into the roots of a mountain. At its center burned a tall, white-blue flame. "Step into the flame," the High Sister said. "If you are false, it will consume you. If you are true, it will transform you." Dane didn't hesitate. He walked into the fire. The awakening pain exploded through his body, but it wasn't like burning. It was deeper, as if every cell in his body was being rewritten. Memories flashed, his childhood, Earth, the ship crash, the trials, the bond with the champions, and then visions of the future. He saw himself standing before alien leaders, leading warriors into battle, protecting children born of mixed blood. He saw himself holding hands with Velka, Shareth, and Iluna, and he saw a final confrontation with a towering figure in a dying sky. Then the pain faded. Dane stepped out of the flame, glowing faintly. His eyes were brighter, his voice deeper, his aura stronger. The Silent Sisters fell to one knee. "You are no longer just a man," the High Sister said. "You are the flame bearer." A message from the enemy. That night, a hologram crackled to life in the temple, broadcasted across all Amazari channels. Warlord Zalcor appeared. "I am coming," he said. "Your prophecy is a lie. Your flame bearer is a mistake. Surrender the human or watch your world fall." The signal ended. Silence filled the temple. Iluna stepped beside Dane. "What do we do now?" Dane's hands tightened into fists. "We make them regret ever setting foot on this planet." As the sky darkened with scourge ships dropping into orbit, Dane looked to the champions and said one word: war. The final stand begins. The sky over Sethrina turned black. Thousands of scourge ships pierced the atmosphere like knives through silk. Their jagged bodies glowed with sickly green lights and long tentacles of energy whipped through the clouds. It wasn't just an invasion, it was an execution. Inside the outer temple, the ground shook beneath Dane Voss's feet. He stood at the temple gates, watching the heavens burn. Behind him, Velka, Iluna, and Shareth stood in full armor. The air around them pulsed with tension. Warriors ran across the jungle paths, priests activated ancient shields, and civilians were sent deep into underground shelters. The countdown to war had begun, and Dane was no longer just a survivor. He was now their symbol. Their flame-bearer. The council divides. In the High Council's emergency meeting, tension boiled over. "We cannot win," shouted Elder Varn. "The Scourge have crushed 10 planets this year alone." "We have the flame-bearer," Shareth argued calmly. "And the Grove chose him. He's still just a human." Dane stepped forward, voice sharp. "I didn't ask for this, but I'm not running," Iluna added. "He fought our trials. He earned our bond. If he's willing to bleed for us, how can we not fight for him?" The room fell silent. Narexa slammed her hand on the table. "We fight, but we do it on our terms." She looked to Dane. "We need more than courage. We need strategy." The plan of shadows and flame. In the war room, a map of Sethrina hovered in the air, holographic and pulsing with enemy signals. Dane pointed to the northern mountain ridge. "Their command ships will land here. It's high ground, full control, but the terrain is narrow." Velka nodded. "Perfect for an ambush." "And the southern valley?" Iluna asked. Dane zoomed in. "That's where they'll send their ground beasts, massive walkers with energy cannons. We can flood it." Shareth raised a brow. "With what?" Dane grinned. "Lava." Everyone stared. "There's a dormant magma river under that valley," Dane explained. "We detonate the vents, bury them in fire." Narexa chuckled. "You really are insane." Dane smiled. "Only on the days ending with a war." Velka's assault team. The Cliffs of Blood On. The first morning of battle, Velka led a squad of elite Amazari warriors to the north. Their bodies were cloaked in mountain dust, weapons humming low. Hidden among jagged stones, they waited as Scourge landing craft descended. The moment the first troop stepped out, they attacked. Explosions lit the sky. Velka's team, enhanced with bio-armor and flame tech, ripped through the enemy lines with brutal precision. Velka herself took down a commander with a single punch that cracked stone. Still, more kept coming. But just as they were being pushed back, Dane arrived. Jet boosted, glowing from the grove's energy. He landed in front of Velka with a blade of white-blue flame. He charged straight into a Scourge squad, cutting through armor like paper. "You're late," Velka said, panting. "I wanted you to have some fun first." Together they turned the cliff into a graveyard of Scourge metal. Shareth's defense. The mental web. While Velka held the mountains, Shareth created a psychic defense field in the capital using the minds of 10,000 Amazari volunteers. They sat in circles, humming in unity, sharing thoughts, projecting visions into the skies to confuse enemy scouts. Dane joined her briefly, linking his mind into the web. He saw memories, hopes, fears, entire lifetimes, and Shareth saw something else. "You carry more than power, Dane," she whispered. "You carry destiny, yours and ours." He nodded. "Then we fight for both." Iluna's secret mission, into the Dark Core. While the war raged above, Iluna led a stealth team to the enemy flagship. Their goal? Assassinate warlord Zalcor. They boarded the ship using a stolen Scourge craft and slipped into the ventilation system. But halfway through, an alarm triggered. Iluna froze. "It's a trap," she said. "He knew we were coming." From the walls, black energy traps activated. Her squad was scattered. One by one, her warriors fell, some vaporized, some captured. Only Iluna made it to the control chamber. There stood Zalcor, massive horned half-machine. He smiled darkly. "You came for my head, Shadow Girl, now kneel." Iluna threw 2 knives. He swatted them aside. "You're brave," he growled. "But the flame bearer will die just like you." She activated her last beacon and whispered, "Dane, I'm sorry." Then everything went dark. Dane's rage unleashed. When Dane saw the signal fade on the war map, something inside him snapped. The grove's energy, once warm and guiding, now burned hot and wild. His veins glowed. His voice echoed with unnatural force. "She's still alive," he said, trembling. "No one survives on Zalcor's ship," someone said. "She's still alive." Dane ran to the launch platform. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't wait for backup. He leapt into a combat pod, punched the override codes, and launched straight into orbit. Alone. As his ship screamed through the stars and the Scourge flagship grew larger in his sights, Dane whispered, "You wanted the flame. Now burn." He loaded his blade. His eyes glowed brighter than ever. And behind him, Sathrina's fate waited, on the edge of one final battle. He who brings the future. The stars were silent as Dane Voss's ship sliced through the black of space. His breathing was slow, focused. The fire from the Grove of Life still burned inside his body, hotter than ever before. His arms shimmered faintly with blue-white energy, and the blade resting across his lap pulsed with life, almost as if it were alive, breathing with him. Below, Sathrina was at war. Above, the enemy's largest ship, the Scourge Dreadfang, loomed, like a floating tomb. Dane's ship locked on to its weak point. He wasn't just flying into danger, he was flying into legend. A one-man infiltration. The Scourge's scanners didn't pick up Dane's pod until it was too late. The pod smashed through the side of the ship, breaking past layers of metal and crashing into the upper deck. Smoke filled the air. Scourge guards stormed the corridor, but Dane was already moving. He rolled from the pod and struck fast. His blade ignited, cutting down the first enemy with a burning arc. The second he disarmed and knocked unconscious. He didn't waste time. Iluna was somewhere on this ship, and he would tear it apart to find her. As Dane moved deeper into the warship, he tapped into the Grove's energy. The ship's blueprints appeared in his mind. He felt where the guards stood before he saw them. He heard whispers in the metal, like the planet itself was guiding him. He reached the prison deck, Iluna's fate, inside a dark, cold cell. Iluna hung suspended by energy cuffs. Her armor was cracked. Blood dripped from her lip, but her spirit wasn't broken. Zalcor stood outside her cage. I expected screams, he said, but all I get is silence. Iluna raised her chin, eyes burning. We don't scream. We endure. Zalcor laughed. Soon your flame-bearer will die and your world will burn. You Amazari made the same mistake all dying empires make. Hope. Suddenly, the lights above flickered. The ship shook violently. Zalcor's smile faded. Iluna closed her eyes. He's here. The final confrontation. Dane burst through the corridor, flames trailing his steps. He cut through the last steel door and entered the chamber. Zalcor turned, smiling. Ah, the monkey arrives? Dane said nothing. He looked at Iluna, bruised but alive, and then at the warlord who had hurt her. I'm done talking, Dane said. He activated his blade. Zalcor summoned a massive spear charged with corrupted energy. Let's finish this. They clashed. Steel met fire. Power met will. The walls of the prison shook as they fought. Every swing from Zalcor sent shockwaves. Every dodge and strike from Dane sent arcs of light through the room. Sparks flew. Flames danced. Their movements blurred in flashes of red and blue. Zalcor struck Dane hard across the chest, sending him crashing into a wall. Is this all you've got? The warlord sneered. Dane wiped blood from his mouth. Not yet. He raised his hands. The flame of the grove burst from his body in a wave of white light filling the room. The fire didn't burn, it purified. Zalcor roared and charged. Dane met him with full force. In a final spinning move, Dane cut through Zalcor's spear and drove his blade deep into the warlord's chest. Light exploded. The ship falls. Dane freed Iluna, holding her gently. You came, she whispered, weak. I always will, he said. But the ship was collapsing. Fires broke out. Alarms screamed. Evac now, Dane shouted, carrying Iluna through the smoke-filled corridors. As they reached the escape pods, Scourge guards tried to block them, until Shareth's voice crackled through the comlink. Look up. The sky lit up as Amazari fighters dove. From orbit, Velka leading the attack, they opened fire, clearing a path. Dane placed Iluna inside a pod, then climbed in beside her. Hold on, he whispered. The pod launched just as the Dreadfang exploded behind them, pieces of it raining down like falling stars. Return of the Flame-Bearer, they landed just outside the capital. A crowd gathered as Dane stepped from the pod, Iluna leaning on his side. Her wounds were healing, but her pride was stronger than ever. General Narexa walked forward. Is it done? She asked. Dane nodded. Zalcor is no more. Narexa looked to the stars. Then the prophecy is fulfilled. But Dane raised a hand. No, this isn't the end. The crowd went silent. This is the beginning. The Scourge aren't gone. They'll come again. But now, we're ready. He looked to the children, the warriors, the elders. To win the future, we must fight together. One flame, one world, one people. The crowd erupted into cheers. The legacy begins weeks later in the rebuilt capital. A new tower was raised. It was called the Flame Spire. At its top stood the united crest of the Amazari and Earth, a symbol of two worlds forever linked. Dane was no longer just a visitor. He was now part of something far greater. He walked with Iluna through the gardens, hand in hand. Velka trained new recruits nearby. Shareth meditated with young mind-seekers. Peace had come, but it was hard-earned. Children. Born of mixed blood ran across the fields. Strong, kind, brilliant. Dane watched them and smiled. They are the future, Eluna whispered. And we'll protect them, Dane replied. And so, the man who crash-landed on a hostile planet became the fire that lit a galaxy. He was the human they never expected, but exactly the one they needed.